What's going on, everybody? Now, I know it is June, which in college athletics is pretty much the closest thing you get to a dead period, but a lot of news came out for the CIAA last week, so we're going to go ahead, go over a little bit of that, give you some of the news, get your commentary as well. So please, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video so it helps the algorithm, and leave us your comments about what do you think the CIAA's decisions are and how do you feel about them. So let's just get straight to it, guys. CIAA announced on last Thursday, June 13th, that it would be moving its CIAA football championship, not the basketball championship, but CIAA football is coming back to North Carolina. It will be in Durham starting in 2025. That was the big news that came out the other day. If you know the history of it, the CIAA football championship game dates back to the early 70s. It's actually the first HBCU football league to have a championship game. Kind of been back and forth. They had it for some years, then they didn't have it for some years. But it's been pretty consistent since 2001. Other than 2013, the game that never happened over in Winston-Salem. But anyway, the game has been in Salem, Virginia since 2016. That's when North Carolina had some very unpopular legislation that led to a lot of things moving out of the state. The CIAA, of course, is largely in North Carolina at this point, and so there was a lot of pressure for it to move everything out, including the basketball tournament. We know that didn't happen because of that bill, but it did happen eventually. But what they did do was move the CIAA football championship from Durham to Salem, Virginia. And Salem, Virginia, for those who don't know, is near Roanoke, which is probably about 2.5 hours from the nearest CIAA school, probably Winston-Salem State, maybe Bluefield State now at this point. And so the championship game has been held there for the last, since 2016, and so it's definitely been a consistent home, but the bidding was opened up. Now, there were some other cities involved. Winston-Salem talked about making a bid. Charlotte did make a bid, and of course Durham as well. And it was decided on that Durham would be the new home of the CIAA football championship going forward, starting in 2025 through 2027. If you look at it, Durham, for a couple of reasons, is probably honestly a better choice than Charlotte. I know Charlotte is obviously the bigger city, and we've been there, done that with the CIAA, but for football, you look at it, it's a championship game where it's a one-day championship game event, and it's really gives it a lot of versatility. It can be a same-day event. Pretty much all the schools are within a fairly good mile radius of it, or at least very accessible for their location. I know it's, that's where Shaw plays their football games. Fayetteville State is an hour and just a little bit over an hour away, and even Virginia State and Virginia Union are just right up 85, 295. And so very close to them as well, not far from Winston-Salem. Not too bad even from Salisbury for Livingstone and Charlotte and Johnson C. Smith. Of course, Johnson C. Smith, I'm sure, would have loved to have it in Charlotte. I'm sure a lot of people would have loved to have it in Charlotte, but being in Durham makes it a little bit more accessible. Again, you can go day up, day trip, down up, day up, day out, down up, Anyway, you can go there in a day and come back. Or, they could make it an event and try to have some events around that, some parties and things like that. And I know different promoters are going to be doing that, so look out for that. So that's the big news that came out on Thursday. But on Friday, the CIAA dropped a couple other jewels as well. So they had their annual meetings. And in the spring meeting, a couple of things came out. Number one, CIAA tournament bids are now up for the basketball tournament, men's and women's. So the CIAA is in Baltimore through the 2026 CIAA tournament. So a couple more years in Baltimore, 2 more to go, but we'll see after that. They will be accepting bids. So the question is, will Charlotte bid again? Will Baltimore try to bid? Baltimore tournament has brought in over $81 million according to the CIAA. So that's nothing to sneeze at all. So I'm sure they'll be trying to keep that as well. Will we see other schools and cities, will we see other schools and cities also try for bids? For a long time it was held in Virginia, and Virginia is kind of like the middle ground in a lot of ways for the CIAA when you consider Bowie State, Lincoln, and now Bluefield State as well. And so, the CIAA tournament, there are a lot of things that you got to have. And I know Somebody's gonna say it. God, no. Just SJG insertion right here, not at all. Like, Atlanta is not CIAA country. It's just, I mean, it would get swallowed up there. Whatever you think you saw in Charlotte, it would triple in Atlanta. So, nah, no Atlanta. But, you know, we'll see if some of those regional cities, Raleigh as well. You know, Raleigh, I previously held the CIAA tournament before I went to Charlotte. Winston-Salem did as well. Winston-Salem's a little bit different now because the arena is owned by Wake Forest. It was previously owned by the city of Winston-Salem. So, different logistics there. But let us know in the comments who you guys think where you would like to see the tournament go next, or if you think you might get for it to stay in Baltimore. Let us know, but only if you actually go to get. Okay, if you're going to support CIAA stuff. So that was the number one item. Number two, there's a Black College Football Hall of Fame Legacy Bowl. So this is going to be between the champions of the CIAA and the SIAC, but I want to clear up some stuff just so folks will know. Though it's called a bowl game, and that's what we're being told right now, it's called a bowl game, it will be at the start of the season in the week 0. Starting this year, because the CIAA and the SIAC fought for week 0 for D2, it's a thing now, and we see some games all over. But starting next year, the game that has previously been the Black College Football Hall of Fame, and you know that's featured some teams from the SWAC. Tennessee State has been in there as well, and the last couple years it's been a SIAC CIAA matchup. Well, now the champions every year, they're going to go to the playoffs. They'll be able to compete in the playoffs if they're selected. Remember, guys, there's no automatic B2 playoffs. It's a thing. But, you know, they'll be able to compete in the regular postseason, but they'll start the season against each other in Canton, Ohio. It's a great facility. That's the actual Football Hall of Fame. The Black College Football Hall of Fame is being housed there as well soon as well. So that's a new development. We'll definitely have to see how that goes. And so then we've also got maybe the biggest news that came out was a women's HBCU flag football league. So the conference has decided that it will let schools explore the option of creating flag football for women, and potentially and if there are enough teams that are interested in making a championship. This would be huge. I know Alabama State has talked about a women's flag football team, and they're trying to form one, but potentially here what you have here is a whole league on the East Coast of HBCUs playing for a championship in flag football, for women's flag football. The game is growing by leaps and bounds every year, so a great recruitment tool. It could be a differentiator for some of these schools, so definitely something for us to keep an eye on for sure. There's money from the NFL and some other organizations as well. And then lastly, the conference realignment, well, actually some changes. So we reported this last month, but basically they have decided that they are going to vigilance in the CIAA. So there still will be a championship game, just like in the SIC. There still will be a championship game, but it will be based on the number 1 and number 2 teams, which means that you could have teams repeating against each other in the regular season and then in the championship. We actually had that last year, even though it was East and West, just because Fayetteville State and Virginia Union played each other. But you could see a Virginia Union, Virginia State CIAA championship game. You could see a Fayetteville State, Winston-Salem State game. It just depends on how things work out. 1 through 11, because St. Aug is not playing this year. And moving forward, what I'm told is that it will stay 1 through 12, even if St. Aug comes back as far as football. So big news coming out of the CIAA. But let us know what you think about any of these developments, which ones you like, which ones you don't. But either way, let us hear from you guys. Again, we really appreciate the interaction. Please continue to like the post and share these with folks as we get ready. Media days are right upon us. A lot of them have been announced. We'll talk about some of that stuff later, and you'll see some of our reports. But we really appreciate everybody for tuning into this so much. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.